Are we expecting Kuzenbo in this set?
Ooh.
I don't know, maybe. I feel like there's a small percentage that we might see him, but I really don't think he's going to pull it out here.
No, Kuzenbo just doesn't provide what all these other Guardians do provide.
Yeah. Actually, before we saw the double Kuzenbo in our practice cast.
Oh, yeah.
That was great to see.
Little behind the scenes action. Yeah, we were warming up, and then we had like 4 Kuzenbos.
4 Kuzenbos going at it. It was great.
Looking over to the team of Elevate, no numbers, Cherryo, DeathPanter, Dardez, and Jermain. Like innovative players, really interesting and exciting, and it's probably one of the most unique teams that we're seeing in the SPL.
Absolutely. Elevate is an interesting team to look at from the outside looking in because of their original upcomings, right? Coming from Les Myrmidons, Dardez and Jermain, it's not an easy task. DeathPanter was on a lot of, less than average teams, as well as Cherryo, and it's the team of misfits, I would say, that kind of found their stride together.
Obey is almost the opposite. These players are so consistent and so standard to the meta.
That's what they like to do. They've been playing since the beginning. CaptainTwig has been to every single SWC and Ataraxia and PrettyPriMe being second place for the first and the third years. They have a lot of experience under their belts.
Well, you were just saying CaptainTwig has been to every Worlds as SK Gaming Fnatic and Obey, and I think we actually have a video right now. Let's go check it out.
Even though I think I can play a more carry role, I do think that I don't think that's what Obey needs, and I don't think that's what Obey wants. I think we've got enough carry players, Prime, Xaliea, and Nate, to not need a strong carry assassin role. And I've basically decided to become the best I can be at a supportive, kind of sacrificial frontline role that I can be.
Sacrificial frontline role as we saw him play in Sobek.
That's right. Well, Xaliea was that sacrificial role in that earlier game, playing the Osiris here, something that he really prefers. Benjamin Knight there on your screen really knows how to get the crowd riled up.
And my apologies, everyone, I meant CaptainTwig. They're not Xaliea, but everyone, I believe we are ready for picks and bans of game number 2. It is Obey Alliance versus Elevate.
Curious to see what the direction is for both of these teams. I think Elevate now opting to go for first pick is going to lean on probably trying to go for that Athena Cup bracket if it's left open.
Yeah, it might go for Nox as well. They're really famous for the Nox support out of Dardez, but we could really see a lot of different options coming out of Elevate. There's also the other hunters on the board, like AMC as well. Yeah. So I'm really curious to see what they're going to go with.
We talked about Nox, and it wasn't picked or banned in that last game, so Nox could be an interesting choice.
From Dardez?
Yes, he loves the Nox support. It does a lot of work, especially considering he'll start in the duel lane with Jermain. They'll try to get the early pressure. They'll try to find that early kill.
Hell first ban? In what universe does Hell get first banned?
In the universe that she's really good against Guardians and EmilZy's playing her.
Kelly, it's 2018. Time to get with the times. Hell first ban.
Man, where's Wolfie when you need him?
He's in the crowd. He's somewhere there.
Oh, taking a bit of time with their third ban, second ban coming out of Elevate.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a Hunter. I'm kind of expecting another Hunter ban coming out of Elevate, maybe the AMC. But they might go for it themselves because they are the first pick. I'm curious to see what they do. And they banned the Discordia.
Yes.
No surprise there at all.
They do not want him on that.
Prime played amazingly well last game. He did so much damage, taunting the carries, and even sealing the game out with a taunt on the Titan as well.
It's very difficult to defend a siege against a Discordia that can just use that strike from so far away, not to mention that golden apple, finding the cripple, so if you blink initiate as a Geb, you're not escaping.
Yeah, and the thing is too, with her root slash taunt ability, it comes out instantly, so there's not a lot of time to react, and it usually forces the carrier's beads out. So it makes her really strong. Her early game isn't too great, but if you get to that 25, 30, 35 minute mark, she's absolutely insane.
A Sylvanas ban coming out. Do not want to give that to Dardez.
Not at all.
Dardez and EmilZy both have amazing Sylvanases. healing is very strong, and the protection Sylvanas heals provide is also really strong in a 3-tank composition like Elevate likes to play.
The Naka was just too powerful. That Wrath of Terror ultimate provides so much AoE control, especially when you already have a Xing Chen, Sylvanas, you pair that up with a Hou-Yi. Elevate had a great composition that last game, couldn't execute it to find the win, but this time around, they left the Muzen open, gonna snag that one away.
Yeah, I gotta ban out that Ullr from that last game that we saw, though it's actually Obey Alliance banning out Ullr because Elevate does have that first pick. They do not want him to have it.
Jermain had an amazing performance last ball on AMC. He had the second highest damage. He had the highest damage basically the entire game, and then Prime barely edged him out at the end of that game.
Oof, but Obey picks up Raijin and Osiris since they picked up that AMC. Seems like a rough trade.
Definitely, both of these teams understand their mindsets heavily there. You know, that first game banning Raijin was for a specific reason because PrettyPriMe really knows how to bang those drums as hard as he can, and that's something that Elevate didn't want to deal with.
Yeah, PrettyPriMe loves to call Raijin the drum.
The drum.
Yeah, don't give him the drum.
They don't want Raijin, but they don't want Discordia either, and they have to ban out Help.
True. You're a dum-dum if you give him the drum.
Nice.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I'm gonna high-five myself.
All right, that's a clap. Okay, Elevate taking a long time for their second pick right here. Look at the, man, they seemed a little stressed out.
I mean, after such a grueling game like that first one, you're trying to, you're always on the back foot, you're defending time in and time out, you're still finding the kills, and then to have it like kind of slip through your fingers there, it's got to take its toll mentally.
Yeah, I don't think they're really stressed out. I feel like they're just trying to think really hard about what they want to pick here because their backs are against the wall, and this is their elimination game if they do lose. They are definitely probably feeling some pressure, but I think they're just trying to think about what they want to do mainly.
Nice,
Athena.
I am loving this Athena pick. Athena taunt into the AMC ult.
Yeah, and look at this though, hovering over Amaterasu, and that's going to be taken away from EmilZy as well. I thought that it was going to be maybe a Kabrakan paired up with the Athena, but no, instead really targeting against Obey.
But instead they picked Fafnir.
Soon, I will own everything in this land.
Amaterasu against the Fafnir. Once that ultimate occurs, it's going to be basically a lot of focus fire, I think, on the Fafnir early game.
Yeah, I feel like Athena's going to go jungle. Ama's probably going to go solo or support. I feel like we're going to see what they pick. It'll kind of fill out the rest of their draft. But Fafnir, a really strong pick for EmilZy. We all know how much he loves Fafnir. His two favorite gods are Faf and Sylvanas out of the Guardian role, and then obviously his signature pick, Hell, but all those gods are banned. Fafnir's up, so he goes with the Fafnir.
Totally, correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't we see Athena jungle all the way back in like preseason, before season 1 on Lasses?
Yeah, I think that was a thing back in yesteryear.
Back in the day.
Pepperidge Farm remembers, yeah.
Yeah, every year we see somebody else trying Athena jungle. We've seen Weekend also do it in season 2 and have a lot of success with it. We've seen a ton of players try it, and it is very successful sometimes. Sometimes it just falls flat. And also, season 1, Titan, who is now Obey, their jungler also played Athena. So everywhere there's Athena jungle.
That's right. I think it was Repicaz back then that really liked that god selection as well.
Taking a long time for these bans. Looking at the rosters right now, who do you think is going to be first ban?
Man.
Never mind, you don't get to answer, it's Hou-Yi.
Well, they need a Hunter still, because it's going to be triple Guardian, double Hunter.
Yeah, their bread and butter comp at Super Regionals was AMC and Hou-Yi. Kabrakan coming out as well, no surprise there. Xaliea loves that god.
Yeah, Kabrakan is definitely a nightmare to deal with. Considering that Obey Alliance is the next pick, Elevate don't want that selection. Wants to make sure that all three of those gods don't get locked down, and it could be even an Odin ban from Elevate next.
Yeah, it might be an Odin ban, might be a Sobek ban. Xaliea had a really strong game last game on the Sobek, doing a ton of damage with his ultimate. Between him and Prime, they were just blowing up the backline.
Hachiman getting banned out there for Jermain. They do not want him to have anyone that he knows how to play.
Well, he already has the AMC. Rama is available as well, so I think Rama is going to be the selection for Elevate, unless Obey pick it themselves here.
That's something they could do. We've seen Ataraxia play it a lot. We saw his famous build, the sniper build, where he went Transcendence first into Power Boots into a pen item. I don't think he's going to do that at this Worlds because Lifesteal is really potent right now. We saw him go 3 Lifesteal items last game with his Ullr stance as well. So I'd be surprised to see if he would go a build like that on Rama.
I think he's going to go Jing actually. He really prefers it, likes to play safe in the long lane, especially against an Muzen comp. You don't want to really box into him, but something else he really likes is the Izanami.
Yeah, Izanami's really strong as well. He played at Super Regionals once, and you called it totally. The Jingwei is coming out. I don't like this pick that much because AMC's really strong at bullying her. Once he gets level 5, he can kind of burst her before she can ult away, and also she's going to be pushed under the tower the entire time.
But she does provide rotations and movement abilities.
Yeah, she does. AMC does also. If you look at his hives, he's going to be able to get over to the fights as well, as long as he keeps a network.
Ooh, you guys were talking about it earlier. They're hovering over Nox. Will they lock it in, though?
Going to be for the Bruise brothers right there. AMC paired up with Nox. If it gets locked in, and that's going to be a lot of pressure onto Ataraxia.
If they lock in Nox, though, what does Obey do to respond?
They just make sure that they're never grouped up for that puddle. That silence is going to be so obnoxious to deal with, and Dardez is going to have a field day.
They're not locking it in just yet. No. Wait, I like how people are groaning, though, because they know that he's not going to pick Anubis.
Yeah. Just getting the crowd riled up here. Nox is definitely going to be the choice for Elevate. This is their style.
Yeah, no Anubis here. I would have been really surprised if they picked the Anubis because we haven't really seen DeathPanter play anything besides Hunters, and it looks like AMC is going to be in the mid lane with Rama in the long lane.
Nice, okay.
But we might see both of them start together at the start of the game to clear the wave out and make sure that they can get their buffs at either side of the map and kind of control the central point of the map. But then we'll see Rama go back over to the long range.
Yeah, I'm definitely expecting a 2-1-2 opening from Elevate because you give DeathPanter Muzen comp, he can clear the wave by himself, even against 2 people from Obey Alliance under the safety of his tier 1 tower.
We have Chulainn finishing out the Obey roster right there. Guys, looking at these 2 compositions, who do you think's got this game?
Well, I had my money on Elevate the last game. They didn't really favor me here, and I think that with Osiris on Obey Alliance yet again, and Chulainn, those are 2 aggressive gods that Elevate can't handle, giving it to Obey.
I really like Elevate's draft. They've played this Athena Nox combo so much. Almost every game at Super Regionals, it was banned. So I'm going to go with Elevate because I really like that they're running their bread and butter comp.
The winner of this is going to be going up against E United tomorrow in the semifinals. Everyone give it up for game number 2 of Obey Alliance versus Elevate.
I am very excited for this one because I think we're going to a game 3.
Man, I'll tell you what, I am shocked to see a Hachiman ban there instead of the Nox. I mean, the whole reason that the Athena combo works so well for Elevate is because it sets up for Dardez on that Nox support. Elevate doesn't play the big burst mage that you want to follow up with Athenaton. I mean, that's the whole reason that it worked for them. Hachiman, I know Jermain plays it. I know he plays it very well. But when you're leaving Ram up, you're already giving him a priority pick. I just don't think you get enough off of banning that Hachiman to warrant giving Dardez the Nox.
I also think when you're looking at what Elevate does, and again, I'm bringing up comfort selections again for good reason. Dardez and Jermain, comfortable as a dual lane. Jermain's signature god is the Ram, and Dardez's signature god is the Nox. I thought I heard beats. Sorry.
You all right? Yeah.
I thought I heard beats.
Okay?
I really thought I heard beats. Anyway.
You may have seen some beads because there's 5 of them.
All right. You know what?
Alliance.
Thanks, spectator. All right. They didn't use the beads. I could have sworn I heard it, but 5 beads, and that's all because of Dardez.
All because of Dardez and Cherryo together. I just think that if you take a screenshot of this Elevate comp and only highlight Cherryo, Dardez, and Jermain, and even DeathPanter, you take no numbers as Amaterasu out of it, and you look at those 4 gods, and you hand that to Elevate and say, you get this comp with a random person in the solo lane, they sign in blood for these 4 gods.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to point this out as we switch over to Obey real quick. Ataraxia starting with that the Keeks made build, full boots.
Full boots right away. Now this makes a lot of sense on Jingwei because Jingwei can back to base, heal up without use of potions or anything like that, and use the passive to get back to lane and not miss any farm. You can really utilize that extra power that you get right away and mobility to try and impact fights that you might not have been able to make it to before.
Cherryo and friends able to secure their own buffs this time around. Blue, speed, and red all belonging to Elevate as they hit the jungle relatively early. DeathPanter on the AMC, so a lot of push here in the mid lane, although Obey Alliance here 2 members strong. as Cherryo joins over on the right-hand side, giving pressure to Obey Alliance by default. But again, that dual lane, Jermain and Dardez, all eyes up there.
Without a doubt, Jermain, he made his name on this ROM long ago. Before, when Elevate was the Myrmidons, they were the 5 French players and everyone near the bottom of the league. But everyone was saying, man, Jermain, especially when he gets ROM, he's gonna have a big performance. And here we are on the world stage, a couple seasons later, and Jermain gets a chance to pull out his favorite god on this sort of setting.
That's the type of stuff that I love, that makes me love doing this, man, is because we saw 0-16 Myrmidons, and in each one of those losses, Jermain would play Rom and go 5-0-5, right? And here we are, like you said, so many seasons later. The Jermain Dardez duo lane is sort of the yin to the Jeff and Barracuda yang, right? It's the dark side, and frankly, I love to watch it.
Looks like beads were used by Ataraxia at some point, I'm assuming from pressure from Jermain and Dardez, so already a pretty important cooldown off that Hunter, and without that CC immunity from Airstrike, once he hits level 5, Ataraxia gonna be much safer. Jing known for being the safest Hunter you could possibly pick. He's gonna be able to get away from a lot, but until then, there's an opportunity for Elevate's duo lane to make a play.
Bananas go over to the side of Elevate, so vision on that early Gold Fury will be all theirs. But Dardez on this Nox, one of the bigger things that you are gonna see since Dardez is playing this mage is going to be the fact that he doesn't have that same initiation that a lot of the traditional Guardians have, and so Elevate will have to change their playstyle accordingly.
Good damage on Xaliea, but he returns with that knock-up. No number still, only level 4, so he needs to get underneath that tower. Good damage, but Twig going to be off the mark with that ult.
Full commit, doesn't find the root, and thus doesn't find the kill. But a lot of aggression, and honestly, it's fun to see after the slow-paced match we watched.
Cherryo here, and no numbers now has his ult. CaptainTwig could have to use the purification beads, but Xaliea still in that transformation, means that Elevate a little bit too cautious to try and keep that fight going. That's a win, though, for Elevate, especially with him.
All the way from the left-hand side. CaptainTwig won't be controlled in the treble bottle. There's going to be the shield wall, and there is going to be the kill. No numbers. I see 1, and I see Elevate.
EmilZy here with PrettyPriMe as well. Dardez shows up with a person with no beads, and you expect him to just immediately lock him down, but was off the mark with the 2, the 1, and the ult on top of that, but no number still able to pick it up. Obey down a member, still willing to push into the enemy jungle.
EmilZy in a little bit of trouble, and he's forced to use his own beads. There's PrettyPrime's ultimate, and really just to secure that speed buff, not looking for any kill whatsoever.
Completely worth it. Trading an ult for a buff at this stage of the game is usually worth more than trading an ult for a kill, but again, EmilZy had to use his purification beads that time around.
I normally agree. The ult for the buff, I think, is worthwhile. What scares me is the fact that Prime does have his bead still up, but the CC immunity from that ultimate is really valuable.
Xaliea gonna use the beads and go in with the ultimate, looking for Cherryo. Still has that dash, is just able to get out of that root rage, but the war cry from Xaliea picks up Obey's first kill.
But Xaliea might be turned on. No number's able to seal the deal. Dashes away as well. Dardez locks Twig right in the trouble puddle. The jump away will be good. The Stinger is not. 2-1 Elevate.
Nice cleanup there by Elevate. Good rotation, just utilizing those boots already done for Dardez. EmilZy has not backed yet. He did not get a chance to get over and impact that fight on the right-hand side.
So let's talk a little bit through this Dardez selection, because if you haven't been following Elevate throughout the SPL, I mean, Nox support, what's going on here? That, a lot of damage, silence. He has the ability to stick you in there. Also, he has the ability to travel the map with Cherryo by way of his dash. P.S. The ultimate is also going to lower the damage that the enemy's able to give out. So Dardez using this Nox, it's a mage. That's weird, but on paper, that's a support.
I mean, it totally makes sense. You've got so much CC in the kit, and I think that you touched on it there. The real big one for me for Nox support is that ultimate. It does a lot of damage when you play her in the mid lane as a traditional mage, but in the support role, you really use it as an initiation tool, as a counter initiation tool. It works as peel by just taking a lot of the damage away that some of these frontliners are going to be doing, the backliners. It doesn't really matter. Plus, the Raijin selection for Obey is a big target for that Night Terror to get hit by, and then all of a sudden, those Taiko drums that usually tear through team fights don't end up doing quite as much.
And then, like I said, one of the things that I personally love about it is the ability that when the Athena ult comes through, you're like, all right, this 2-on-1 is turning into 2-on-2. But with the addition of the Nox, now it turns on to a 2-on-3, and Elevate can turn around these ganks like that.
Just
and
completely
really winds up giving them a good spot.
It really does, and Dardez has played it so well, so often. I mean, the one time that we were kind of expecting him to make the play in the solo lane, kind of dropped some stuff, but they end up getting the kill anyway, so no harm, no foul. But he's so consistent at hitting that silence root combination all by himself without any additional help, and that's the mark of a player that can play Nox at a professional level. Look, everyone can hit a 2-1 combo off of an Athena taunt. If you're going to be playing Nox support, it isn't always with the Athena, and it historically hasn't always been with the Athena for Elevate. Dardez doesn't always need Cherryo to be right there, but when he is, it's so guaranteed, it's very difficult to work around.
Brief pause as we wait for the players to set their stuff up, but we'll take another look at the first kill of our game number 2 here at Obey versus Elevate. And this was all sort of the opsy-dope. And Dardez, like we said, misses a little bit, but the damage from the rest of the team comes through and takes down CaptainTwig.
And getting that early kill onto CaptainTwig so important because that Osiris jungle really needs to have that lead if it wants to be a big factor in pushing forward and getting a lot of damage in the early game. Still good for control, but not great for that damage at this point.
And you know what? Whether or not it's the most effective is a different story, but personally, we were talking. Personally, I think the Dardez Nox player god combination is perhaps my favorite pocket pick. It's flavorful, it's effective, and it just works with what his team wants to do. We saw the CaptainTwig video earlier, and he said, look, my team, I got all the carries in the world, I don't have to be that guy. Cherryo wants to play Athena every game. Let him play the Nox. You can fit that in that composition. He's not picking it just to be crazy. There's a lot of thought behind it.
No, and it works well with what Cherryo likes to do, as you mentioned. He wants to play these frontline Guardians. Let's be honest with each other. Cherryo just wants to play support, and Dardez just wants to make your life hell. So they can kind of both do what they want to do, which is Cherryo getting to play his Guardians and Dardez getting to play whatever he wants. It isn't always just the Nox either. I mean, he was playing the Naja support at one point, and even in the last game where he's playing a traditional Guardian, it's Cherryo who ends up building all those tank items, starting to be that frontliner, and then it's Dardez who ends up building some of the utility damage options like Void Stone and Pythag's piece.
Here we're taking a second look at Xalia's answer back kill, able to get it right there. And the fun thing about it for Elevate is that they're able to answer immediately. Xalia's not going to die on your camera, but in the game he certainly did, and that winds up being another early game boon for Elevate.
Now last game it was Obey's composition was just outright better in the late game because of Discordia. That was the real difference maker in the later stages for Obey. This game, I wonder if their late game is going to be as potent. They traded out an Ullr for a better late game hunter with Jing Wei. She's a little bit safer, can play a little bit more aggressively than Ullr can in the later stages just because of how nimble she is with the agility, with the airstrike. But Raijin is just not as impactful as Discordia in the later stages, so Obey may need a bit of an earlier lead than they had in game 1.
I don't know if I agree with that one. I mean, Raijin brings a ton. Yaman, I think, really put Raijin on display earlier. Sure, it's a ton of damage, but that taunt and that fear, that can be devastating.
It can be, but it's not the same sort of guaranteed, not guaranteed, but easy to confirm poke damage that the Discordia has had in game 1. Raijin damage is great at bouncing around that Raiju. If you could throw that onto a frontliner and hit him with it, and then all of a sudden that Raiju bounces back into the back line and pokes them down to 2/3 HP, that's phenomenal damage. It's just a little bit harder at times to confirm that compared to the Discordia damage.
Right now we're waiting, players have issue with their game sound, so we're gonna get that fixed up in just a moment for you. Cherryo there on the screen, and he's been the centerpiece of this Elevate squad for a long time. And you know what's fun is that whenever you start to really get to know a pro scene, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the commentary from the pros. Cherryo is considered one of the best players in the world.
Every pro is like, yeah, Elevate's super fun to watch, and it's mostly because Cherryo is sick and Dardez is sick and okay, yeah, all of Elevate is just super sick. A lot of players, you know, they've got a little bit of an ego. They want to be like, yeah, you know, especially junglers. I talk about them all the time, and they all just seem to love Cherryo. These players have a ton of respect for Cherryo. There's never any, he gets carried by his teammates, he plays, you know, broken picks, whatever it is, whatever caveats a lot of players will throw at one another. Cherry is just kind of widely admired by a lot of pro players, and I think that really does fly under the radar. It really speaks to the little things that Cherryo does well.
Yeah, especially at LAN. He absolutely turns up at LAN. Some people might say, so he plays from Egypt at home during the online splits, and some people might point to the fact that, well, his ping is just really high, and he still performs at a high level, so if you take that out of it, of course he's going to be nuts at LAN, but I also think there's the atmosphere. Cherryo, honestly, he gets a little bit nervous, comparatively speaking, to some of these other pros that like to pretend they're the most stoic rock ever, but Cherryo, I think, channels those nerves into this desire to win and makes him really turn up.
I completely agree with you, and that's why I'm so excited to see him on this World stage, because this is his first time playing at Worlds, and he was always very passionate about being able to come here to the Cobb Energy Center and play on this stage in front of all these fans and to feel what that's like. And so far, it's been pretty good. Now, they don't win game one, but I don't think Cherryo has any, egregious errors or anything like that. It's just a little bit difficult to see how he's going to perform at a World stage until he gets here, and I'm sure he's going to try and make the most of it.
Well, if Cherryo is the focal point for Elevate, I think it goes without saying that this man right here is the focal point for Obey Alliance. Ataraxia might even be the focal point for the European scene in general. Just what Nate's been able to do for this squad and really bring it from, honestly, Nate and Prime have been the remnants of what was once called Team Titan to Aquila. This iteration has gone through so many years and so many lands, so many worlds showings, and, Ataraxia said, I've been number 2 for so damn long. This year is my year, as Aurora would say.
Did he actually say those exact words?
Yeah, and he did some crazy hand thing like Aurora did too.
Oh, that was definitely the best from last year's Worlds, was Aurora's. But regardless, Ataraxia has been that runner-up so many times, and I don't think he gets enough credit. I think a lot of times teams talk about, teams, players, fans, even us as casters, we're talking about how good Twig is, PrettyPriMe, is he the best mid laner in the world, all this kind of stuff, and all of that is really deserved. But Ataraxia has always just kind of been like along for the ride, or that's for the public perception, and I really don't think that's the case. He is so important to that team's mental energy, to their attitude, their emotions here at LAN, to be a steadying force, to have been here a lot of times before, and not to mention, he's a sick hunter. I mean, he is you don't get carried to 2 Worlds finals. It just doesn't happen. You have to earn your way there, and Ataraxia has pulled his weight.
Exactly. I think maybe you get carried to 1.
Sure, it can happen.
I think there's a couple of champions out there, not in Smite necessarily, but that have a ring that might not deserve it, right? You get 2. All right, now you're talking about something different. And like I said, it's the fact that Ataraxia and Prime together have really they've reached here with so many different rosters, so many different mentalities, and very interesting stuff when you look at the history of those 2 combined. But you mentioned Twig, and that's really that's the one that I want to talk about, is because you and I were talking off screen earlier, and I said I asked you a question that's more of a conversation starter than a test question, but is CaptainTwig the most versatile player in the world?
Versatile, I think it fits, because he can play so many different things in the jungle. It's been Osiris jungle so far in this set, but I mean, he could pull out the Fenrir like he did last year up against Eager in Game 5. He's been playing Thanatos, all these sorts of things. Then he pulls out Fenrir and really has an amazing performance. He played Kuzenbo jungle during the regular season.
And destroyed.
And won, and played really well with it, by the way. I mean, I agree with you that any god on the roster, I truly feel like CaptainTwig could maximize or pretty close to it.
And I think it was Tolly that mentioned it on the desk, maybe Aurora, I might be mistaken, but it was the fact that CaptainTwig has a long history of playing duel. Going back to when it was called Joust, homie was number 1 in the world, and he would play literally everything. The Hopwas, the Freyas, the Hunters, the Junglers, the everything. And once upon a time, he was actually mid lane for SK Gaming. Then he switched over to the jungle, and he's played a whole bunch of things. Between the different positions he's played, the different gods he's able to play, and here in Obey, adapting his playstyle to the rest of his squad, I think he just becomes such a valuable player. Right now, 5.5 in, almost 6, 2-1, and Elevate leading the charge, thanks largely in part to Dardez very early on.
He has the 1 assist on that first blood, but it's No Numbers who has both kills so far for Elevate. That's key because No Numbers has been playing a lot of Guardians. It's probably been a while since he's gotten off to a 2-0-0 start on a warrior, specifically a late game warrior like Amaterasu, who really wants to join into the team fights, group up, and try and bully out the opposition. Excited to see if No Numbers is going to be able to maximize that early lead that he's gotten, but because there's been so much splitting on that right-hand side, Cherryo has been over there, Dardez rotated over for the first blood. He's actually a little bit down in XP, partially because of the splitting, partially because the fact that Obey has controlled those fire elementals thus far.
You know, it's interesting, No Numbers, we spend so much time talking about Cherryo, Dardez and Jermain obviously dominate the conversation. We've even mentioned DeathPanter. When we talked about the recent change, well, not so recent anymore, when New Lissa out, DeathPanter in. No Numbers, however, always sort of the silent guy on this Elevate roster.
Completely agree with you. He got very little credit for how well he played at Super Regionals. I mean, he really showed up. He put Xing on the map when you really think about it. I mean, he was the only one who was really playing it at the time.
Yeah, he's been really impressive in the way that you can always count on him. Xaliea right now counting on the knockup. Looking for Cherryo, big taunt, bringing PrettyPriMe into the tower. Huge rotation from Obey, 4 players strong. It looks like they're more interested about the jungle invade than anything else. Swarming that speed.
Jump forward by EmilZy, gonna find the stun and get the beads from DeathPanter as that speed buff did go down in favor of Obey. Looks like they don't want to lose it quite yet. Taunt onto CaptainTwig, but Dardez not quite there with the rest of the combo.
No Numbers making sure to avoid the damage from PrettyPriMe. Cherryo ulting just to make sure his teammates are safe. And Obey, like you said, were able to secure the speed buff, but that's about it. The blue buff will go the way of Elevate.
Again, the ultimate used by PrettyPriMe, not to secure the buff, but around that same side. This time it was to help peel and potentially do some extra damage, but he went for the cooldown boots here. A little bit surprised, but again, we're so used to seeing Elevate, and I just assume 3 Guardians on the map right now for the same team, but there's actually only one. It's only the Athena in the jungle. No Numbers is going to be very tanky, and yes, PrettyPrime's going to need some penetration in order to deal with him, but Dardez, despite the fact that he's going to go for a tankier build, or at least he usually does, in the Guardian role with Nox, doesn't have Guardian scaling. He's not getting a lot of health per level. He's not getting a lot of magical and physical damage, or protections per level. So PrettyPriMe can kind of get away with trying to get a little bit greedier with these CDR boots and use his more utility.
I think it's more about what you were talking about earlier, about power spike items. Obey, you're able to buy the mana boots before you are the power boots, and I think Obey wanted to make that play on the speed buff, and so he was just like, look, I gotta finish these boots, let's go out and get it. And in reality, that power spike looking for the invade is perhaps more important than that penetration.
And that happens all the time. I can't tell you how many times I've talked to a player, send them a message after a game like, hey, why did you buy cooldown boots here instead of pen boots? And all I get back is, oh, I only had 1,500 gold. And I spent 5 minutes trying to figure out why they were going for it. It honestly, it's as simple as that at times.
Because at this level of play, if PrettyPriMe backs to base and waits the extra 4 seconds, right, of the gold that he's short, that means that Elevate get their speed buff. That means that 4-man rotation is garbage. That means that everything, there's so many ripple effects, there's so many, the butterfly effect is so important at this high level that the slightest miscalculation can really, really be rough.
And Devourer's Gauntlet's finished for both hunters already. Ataraxia a little bit ahead, as you would expect, because he didn't go for a starter item or Bumba's Mask, as Jermain did, but still not too far ahead. Jermain's done a good job of keeping pace with Obey's hunter.
Cherryo and the rest of Elevate trying to dance, looking for the vision on this Gold Fury by way of the Oracles. EmilZy brought down to 75, goes in, finds a stun on the DeathPanter. CaptainTwig gonna follow around the corner as well. DeathPanter half HP, bang, bang, bang. PrettyPriMe gets the kill thanks to the drum solo, and the Raijin proves fruitful.
Cherryo has to dash away. That's just great identification that DeathPanter had beads on the last engagement and that he was ripe for the picking from Obey Alliance. EmilZy jumps forward and gets it all started off perfectly, and that's just presence of mind and perfect timing again from Obey. Right as the speed buff spawns, they've put some pressure on the map.
They've had this warded down. The Hand of the Gods, which we haven't really touched on, coming in clutch there and securing it for the guys on Elevate.
Yeah, that pickup by No Numbers. Usually reserved for the Guardians that he plays in the solo lane. Here, picking it up anyways, just because of how susceptible Elevate can be to these invades up against this Osiris jungle.
Xaliea looking to stop the blue buff. Here it is. Cherryo finds the taunt, and that blue buff will be fine. No Numbers takes a lot of damage there. Ouch.
That was just the rage form from Xaliea, but now he's in trouble. 3-man knockup, but No Numbers. Beautiful CC immunity forces out the beats from Xaliea.
No Numbers doesn't get the ultimate, however. Not fruitful. Big taunt coming out from Cherryo. Xaliea is going to be taken down by the Dot Man. DeathPanter makes the bees go nuts.
Cherryo very low. CaptainTwig can't find it, but PrettyPriMe can! He finds Cherryo and now forces Dardez to ult him and dash away.
Love the Dardez play there, by the way. He goes behind PrettyPriMe, trying to just stay around him, making sure that he's not in those crosshairs, those PrettyPriMe rotations. So scary. The Raijin, man, so much damage.
And he's got the Doom Orb. That's where a lot of that damage is coming from. A little bit better these days than it used to be, even because of the lower stack number that allows you to get to that max number a little bit quicker. And then if you die, you're losing less overall.
Yeah, I mean, you're always guaranteed the 60 damage or the 60 power. Before it was much, much less. And I mean, I've always been a proponent of this item, even before it was amplified. I mean, this is risk versus reward, sure. And you just lowered my risk? Absolutely. PrettyPriMe on this Raijin, already an early game powerhouse. The Doom Orb just amping that.
And again, it's so good up against the Hunter, because even though AMC is as good as it gets for early game Hunters, his itemization is still pushing him towards the later game. Devourer's Gauntlets is an item that is not very heavily front loaded. You really do need to pick up those stacks if you want it to be worth the purchase. And so he's still sitting on only Cursed Gauntlet. A matchup that should already be in Prime's favor is now even better.
Ataraxia grabbed by the 2-1 combo. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a support taking the Hunter down to half HP. Jermain only hit 1 or 2 of those basics. That's the power of the Nox early game. He's going to provide that damage, and then late game, when you're silenced for that long, you're just dead most of the time.
Exactly. It's all about that damage in the early game and then transitioning that into the CC. But the CC is also pretty relevant right now as Twig gets hit by that combo and again, brought down to half.
And that's a support mage and a jungle guardian. Just making it happen. That said, when you're the Athena in the jungle, whether you buy penetration boots or the mana boots, the little bit of power on it, getting hit by both ticks of that shield wall, which is another thing that Dardez is helping you out with, really, really hurt.
I was just about to say that. Shield wall, one of the best guardian abilities in that base number, but oh, look at this. Elevate is completely forgotten about the Gold Fury, and Obey is going to make him pay for it. Ataraxia with a well-timed pull, and part of that is because of the itemization. He's going for that Aussie right after Devo Gloves again, and that gives him the ability to tank it up that much better because of the double lifesteal.
I mean, even I would even argue that it's the lack of the starter item in Bumbas. Hold that thought. Mid lane, a lot of action. EmilZy taunted in, going to be rooted in the puddle as well, jumping away after taking a ton of damage. Just the 70 stacks on the Devo Gloves allow you to successfully heal more than the damage you take on that Gold Fury. Hunter can solo that once they have boots and Devo Gloves. So with this early start, I mean, he's able to do that so much quicker.
But he's not. There's so much less risk whenever you have that double life steal. Even though you can tank up the majority of it all by yourself with boots and devos.
You get it, and then you die right after.
Exactly. The Aussie gives you a bit of extra attack speed and that life steal in order to make it so you really don't have any inherent risk. Ataraxia was able to do that nearly by himself.
Just shy of 15 minutes here, folks. Tie game. 3-3, 36,000. Actually, Elevate down by about 1,500, so relatively tied here. Early on in our game number 2. Obey Alliance, should they win, they'll go directly on to tomorrow, and Elevate will sit in the crowd. But Elevate right now, with this type of composition, this is the comp they bring out when they need to win.
Exactly. Their backs are against the wall, and they've got exactly what they need. They've got Dardez on his signature support Nox. They've got Cherryo on one of his most favorite picks in the jungle. DeathPanter on a very strong Hunter that he can play very well, and well, Jermain's on Rama. So what else could you possibly ask for? That, plus No Numbers, who was the only one who we weren't, this isn't a signature god for him necessarily. Still 2-0-1, playing very well thus far, has gotten past the early tough part of Amaterasu's laning phase, not only okay, but in a really good spot.
And you know, it's funny because we mentioned the fact that No Numbers is criminally underspoken about, and the fact that I guess you would say his Sobek is really the god that comes to mind here. But the fact that he's the perfect role player a lot of the times, he fills in those gaps, and this is exactly what he's doing. The rest of his team is playing their signature characters, and then No Numbers goes, word, what are we missing? That's where I come in. No Numbers' signature character is whatever the team is missing.
In this case, it was the Amaterasu, not only because it is pretty good right now, I think, but because it takes it away from Obey, where EmilZy had a great performance on it in game number 1. That about a flexibility in your draft is very important.
Portal Demon started by Obey Alliance, half HP already as EmilZy's taunted in all sorts of damage. Right side comes No Numbers looking for the flank, and trouble as Xalia's controlled. Obey will take care of the objective. Ultimate out of Cherryo, a little preemptive, and now Obey Alliance looking to start the fight. EmilZy looking for the transform, finds it, but the Nox is going to limit the damage.
Jermain up into the sky, puts good damage onto Ataraxia, but No Numbers gonna find 2 with that stun. Cherryo right there forces out the beads from Ataraxia. Not a lot of damage on the other side, but there's a big taunt coming out of Cherry.
And once those beads are down, this is when Elevate jump for the throat. The taunt brings Ataraxia in, and Elevate are hitting the gas pedal. Surging up this mid lane, but it's a little bit too early for them to be expected to dive the towers.
That's exactly how this Elevate comp works. A beads here, a beads there. Okay, now we can turn it because we can find an extra CC onto the person who beads earlier. Just perfect execution by Elevate. And Obey, they got off to a good start onto that fight because Xaliea blinks in, finds a couple with that knockup. Still not enough. Cherry gets stunned out. Big Aegis keeps him alive for the moment.
The fact that he's still alive is really big because that means he can come back with a taunt if Obey overextend. 17 minutes in, the mid lane tower goes down, and Obey one more time looks for the speed buff invade and will get it.
Portal Demon so big there for Obey. That's the only reason that push in the mid lane happens at all, because everyone was forced back. But the fact that Elevate couldn't back and heal like Obey could means that they got an opportunity to push that tier 1 tower down. You get some golden experience from the Portal Demon, yes. For that particular Portal Demon, it may as well have also said, knock down tier 1 tower and get 500 gold.
You know, it's actually kind of rare that we see the Portal Demon actually used by way of map control. Usually it's sort of the consolation prize here, get 100 gold per player. That time, very effective as you bring up there. Blue buff one more time. Tried to be invaded by Obey Alliance, and No Number just hits his relic button like, what are you doing?
Love this Divine Ruin pickup by PrettyPriMe because it does well up against that Amaterasu, who's going to have the heal from switching stances. No meditations on this on Elevate side this time, but that Stone of Gaia, so potent, so talked about, that once you get knocked up, you get a ton of HP 5. Well, and that's cut by Divine Ruin's anti-heal. It's not nearly as impactful. It also gives him the penetration that he needs to try and chunk through that Shogun's Kasari that Dardez picked up. Last game, he had 2 Hunters, didn't end up picking up a Shogun's. This time, he is on the Nox support, but Shogun's got changed to give you a lot less magical protection than it used to. Instead of hitting the attack speed buff, it was touched on the magical protection to give it a little bit more risk involved. Remember, Dardez is not a Guardian, he's a mage, so he's going to be taking a decent amount of damage right now from PrettyPriMe, and Obey might recognize that and try and hit him with it.
Dardez also, by way of playing Nox, that dash allows him to be a little bit more slippery than the traditional Guardian.
There you go.
So when he does start getting attacked by PrettyPriMe, he can just sort of go, oh, okay, and then jump into another player and avoid that damage that way.
Very true. You're really looking for utility as this Nox support, a lot of CDR, and then kind of relying on that Shadow Step to get you out of danger.
EmilZy taunted into a very dangerous hallway as Gold Fury is started by Obey Alliance, half HP. On the objective, Ram takes to the sky, and that'll be the sign to leash.
Good damage, though, on a PrettyPriMe, hitting him for almost 400 as there's a taunt on Xaliea. That forces his Purification Beads. And what does Elevate do? Reset. Use that extra movement speed aura from the Amaterasu, and then just get ready to do it again on Xaliea whenever you get the chance.
Yeah, a little bit of healing as well coming out as those health pots pick up. Cherryo with a good taunt, but Xaliea on the back line. Beautiful blink in from the solo lane warrior. Trouble down this hallway one more time. Before I said it was deadly for Obey, but now it's Ataraxia, and it's Pride, and it's Xaliea. 3 kills, no deaths. Obey double their kill count.
Man, Xaliea does what you want every solo laner to do. Just blink in, Force back 3 people, and hell, kill one of them while you're at it. Great play by Xaliea. Now no numbers here to try and contest this Gold Fury, but Twig is gonna bring him down. Obey Alliance now at 7 kills, and they're gonna get their second Gold Fury of the game.
That is absolutely textbook. That is what you do. Kids, if you're a solo lane player at home, record that and just be Xaliea. I mean, he finds the flank, he uses the knockup to not just help his team initiate, but just all of the plans that Elevate had, he ruined them. Elevate will not pass go. They will not collect $200. They're just toast, and the team fight goes the way of his own.
And Obey plays so well around that dash Athena taunt. Cherryo doesn't have blink. He's not going to be surprising anybody closing the gap. It takes a long time for that preemptive strike to charge up and then dash you forward. So Obey just back up. Cherryo dashes forward looking for a taunt and just kind of looks around like, crap, everyone disappeared. Only taunts in Twig. And then at exact moment when all the carries step up to follow up off of the Athena taunt, you blink on them and kill them. This is how you play around Athena. You beads her CC and kill her, or you let her bait her back line up and you kill them for being too close and trying to follow up.
I also think that was the exact wrong place to fight if you're Elevate. PrettyPriMe actually doesn't devastate them with it, but with everybody lined up, I mean, that's the dream that Raijins wake up from every morning. Just, yeah, stand in a line, and I'll just annihilate you with my solo. So Obey Alliance had everything lined up for them, every variable in their house. That's why they take that team fight. That's why they take that objective. They take the secondary on the other side by way of the Portal Demon. Jermain gets a tier 1 tower, but pales in comparison in what Obey Alliance was able to do, now sitting up almost 5,000-6,000 gold.
CaptainTwig not going to take too much damage from Cherryo, but Cherryo going to take a lot from CaptainTwig. He roots him underneath that tower, not going to be able to find the kill, but with EmilZy here, that might be enough to try and bring Cherryo down. EmilZy going to go up into the Draconic form, try and keep this chase going.
And you can see Jing wrapping around the bottom. He's chasing Nox. Nox going to be there to help as well. Jermain with the taunt. Everybody surrounding the poor Hunter. Lands down, looking for CaptainTwig. Rolls out. Raxia off screen takes care of Cherryo, and that means the rest are going to be able to take care of Jermain. Number 9 for Obey.
Ataraxia pretty low, though. He's going to need help from No Numbers. Agility gets him out of danger, but No Numbers just barely sneaks through. Meanwhile, Xaliea is just being a nightmare on the front side.
Why is Xaliea even there? A beautiful, beautiful... Xaliea can see the future. There's no reason to be there, except if you're going to stop the guy walking all the way down the lane. Heads up play by Xaliea, anticipating where that player was going to go. Xaliea is able to stop that, and so all of the damage that Jermain did in his lane, while Obey took care of business on the right side of the map, is now basically erased.
Cherryo gonna ult in to try and defend this, and it does force Obey back for the moment. Ataraxia had a lot of trouble, gets hit by that stinger, but still had beads, able to get away.
Last time we were talking about how Elevate were down, we discussed this advanced metric called relative gold, right? And we said, well, due to their tanky composition, Elevate aren't as down as much as they numerically seem. This time around, that's not the same case. This 10,000 gold deficit, Ryan, this 8,000 gold deficit, this is more real. This is scarier.
It definitely does, because remember, all of the early kills went to No Numbers, and he's still very far behind Xaliea. Normally, on his traditional Guardians, if he's playing his signature Xingqian, who cares?
Yep.
You know, Xingqian's going to make an impact from behind no matter what. Ama still will make an impact from behind, but it just doesn't bring the same oomph that a Guardian in the solo lane from behind would. No Numbers being 3 levels down to Xaliea is absolutely problematic, and it's very surprising that Obey was able to hold that Chulainn pick until very last. A lot of the knocks on Xaliea are that he doesn't have a lot of warriors in the God pool. It's really Chulainn, and the end, as far as a lot of players are concerned, he got it. And clearly you could see why that's his #1 warrior to play.
A lot of players think Chulainn is, you know, sort of numero uno, guy #1. I'm not so. Don't think he's the best. For Xalia's hand, I really do. Xaliea always seems to find a way to find himself surrounded by the enemy team on his own terms, and then uses that knockup. You never see Xaliea knock up one player. It's always 3+, and that is really really what's keeping Obey Alliance this far ahead. I mean, last time we were talking about, PrettyPriMe just sort of wrecking it. This game, this is Xalia's.
Without a doubt, and he wrecked game 1 too. I mean, it was PrettyPriMe and Xaliea. It was PrettyPriMe with a lot of the poke damage, but that Sobek was incredible. What is it with Obey Alliance solo laners and having insane performance at HRX? I mean, it's just incredible. And you look at the common denominators between last year and this year, I think not nearly enough credit goes to CaptainTwig in the jungle, because he is the common factor between Variety playing amazingly last year, Maniac playing amazingly for the first half of this year for Obey Alliance, and now Xaliea following suit. I mean, he's the guy who sets up the solo for Obey. Clearly, he's doing something right. He's the solo lane whisperer, as far as I'm concerned.
I think you're onto something there. Speaking to some of those solo laners, they had only good things to say about Twig. And again, talking about that video, Twig said it himself. He's like, look, man, my team, I just try to fit myself around my squad. He is, by his very nature, just sort of the helper, the role player, and that's why Obey is doing so well.
Without a doubt, and they're in a great spot in this one, up almost 10,000 gold. They're double digits in kills. Elevate only 3 so far. And there's just not a lot of damage right now onto these frontliners. They all have purification beads, so you need to kill them in multiple rotations. And even then, you're going to have a tough time doing it as Obey claims their 3rd Gold Fury. That does push the gold lead above that 10,000 mark, but the experience is even more scary to look at. 13K.
Talking on to EmilZy might be able to be caught out here. Level 17 Fafnir, far too tanky. Elevate. That's one of those moments in a game where you really notice how far behind you are. You get 3-4 players to collapse on one short to support, but you're not really able to really touch him. That's really got to hurt the guys on Elevate. I
mean, he's got a lot of protection, specifically that Spirit's Robe, which is the perfect pickup into what Elevate wants to do to Obey Alliance. Surprised that Xaliea goes for a Mantle of Discord instead of a Spirit's Robe, but could still have room to pick that up if he sells the Bluestone Pendant. Spirit's Robe just so good up against Athena taunt follow-up, because you get that damage mitigation off of it, and it's not like Athena's not going to taunt you just because you have Spirit's Robe.
Yeah, I mean,
it's still going to happen. That's the whole game plan for Elevate's team composition, is to lock you down and allow their double hunters to tear you up, but getting the itemization of the Spirit's Robe, the Jade Emperor's Crown. Surprised to see no Runic Shield this game for CaptainTwig, but still has room, could go for it in a little bit.
I mean, it's even weird to see that Thebes. Haven't seen that in a moment. Able to help out some of his teammates as well with added protections. I mean, is that really just because, I mean, why do we see the Thebes here?
It's just still a pretty decent bridge item. It's not too expensive, gives you a lot of health, and going Spirit's Robe and Jade Emperor's Crown doesn't give you a lot of HP. It gives your teammates some help. It's kind of like a selfless version of Stone of Gaia for supports.
CaptainTwig on zone duty here. Portal Demon already taken. Fire Giant started and down to 90% HP. The rest of the squad is going to peel off and look for the team fight. There's help from EmilZy front line. Looking for the transformation. Damage is dealt. Twig relatively low. And Prime able to chase out Jermain on the left-hand side. No numbers might eat it here, but help out from his friends. Cherryo finds the ult.
Xaliea trying to get back. EmilZy is going to get taunted in, but he still is going to be okay. So much CC reduction on this side. Wow, look at all of Obey turning and running. This is how Elevate would like to play this team fight.
Jermain with the flank, looking for the hits on EmilZy, and he's trucking him. So much damage, almost full build here. Unable to find that last piece of the Titan's Bane, and unable to find the last piece of EmilZy's HP. But you know what the biggest difference there was in that team fight? Xaliea didn't find the flank knockup.
Exactly. He did a good job of that team fight. He actually blocked off No Number's dash, and that's what almost brought Obey the kill, but still wasn't able to really start it off and get a lot of relics out. I mean, look at Jermain, still full-on relics. DeathPanter only has to use the purification beads. Even Cherryo gets to hang on to his Aegis, so a couple relics that time not burned by Obey, and all of a sudden Elevate gets some confidence to try and push it back.
Well, because Elevate also adapted to that scenario. Set up an ambush here. There's the taunt. There's the trouble funnel. EmilZy brought down to 60. Jermain has to sort of roll away. Now, Jermain wasn't with the rest of the group last time, and that's why the team fight was so much better. comparatively speaking. This time around, though, PrettyPriMe grabs 2 in the ultimate. EmilZy trying to chase down, but a nice ult by Dardez is going to limit the output.
EmilZy's not going to be there, but look at Twig coming around the side. Doesn't have that ultimate quite yet, but still very healthy. Obey has the opportunity to go for a tier 2 here potentially, but they might just go straight to fire. Multiple members of Elevate need to back.
Yeah, fire is the call here. I absolutely agree with this one. I think, the fire is going to be able to push your lead even more so and help you look for the win. But Elevate, they aren't just backing. They're not going to take this one easy.
Cherryo in some trouble. He already used that Aegis, is able to dash away, but Twig has the ultimate, follows it with that Lord of the Afterlife. Can't quite find it yet, but there he goes. CaptainTwig with number 3.
Jermain gets hit by the Raijin, and that's big damage out of the Hunter. Jermain has to stay local. His ultimate's up, and his ultimate is absolutely a threat to steal this objective. Should Obey hard commit to it. But you can tell that Obey understand exactly what's happening here, and they need to make sure they're able to get that without the interference. Jermain's ulting.
I guess he didn't have vision. No, they don't have vision of that Fire Giant. Figured that Ataraxia was still on it, but he had peeled off as well to come and help the team fight. So Jermain now without his ult, without his purification beads either, he's to be very cautious of where he's walking.
And that's why we see Obey just hard commit on the Fire Giant now. Because with Jermain's ultimate down, DeathPanter, not the traditional mains that would be able to long range go for it, but Obey still peel and still are looking for the team fight, as they should, up 11,000 gold.
Ataraxia doesn't have that triple, oh no, he does have that triple lifesteal, so he really can tank up that Fire Giant if necessary, but with EmilZy getting a little bit lower, with CaptainTwig being around half HP without an ultimate, that's probably a wise decision to back up.
That's a win for Elevate.
Absolutely. I mean, they don't commit a lot there to stop Obey from going to that Fire Giant. I wonder if they had the opportunity over again, if they would have tried to push down the tier 2 instead of baiting in and trying to go for that FG. All they really got out of it was a kill on the Cherryo, and that 1,500 gold and map pressure probably ends up being worth a little bit more. But with only 2 members of Elevate backing, that's a split-second decision. Yeah. And Obey is so good at juggling Fire Giants, as we really just saw. I mean, they were on it, off it, on it, off it. Their target selection's excellent. Their timing is good. They're willing to full commit to the objective when they know they've got the opportunity to secure it. So taking a team to where you feel comfortable and where you play very well, you can't fault Obey for that.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I think even in that sequence, Obey could have gotten the Fire Giant after Jermain ults. But either way, neither heads nor tails. As one more time, we see the fight. Cherryo gonna taunt EmilZy. He's low again, but there's the double knock-em coming out from Xaliea. And right away, PrettyPriMe gets the kill. No numbers in the ground.
Jermain uses the snipes, has to use the Aegis when he lands. EmilZy looking for it, but Xalia's gonna find him. Pushes Cherryo back into the thick of Obey, and he's gonna get the kill for himself.
Xaliea, just the man with the plan. He's taking a lot of damage from the 2 hunters. DeathPanter and Jermain are still very, very relevant. But I don't think Xaliea cares at this point. Fantastic play. Again, 2-man knock-up right into the damage from PrettyPriMe. That's how you make a team fight.
But again, what does Obey really get off of it? Now, with this Portal Demon, perfect timing for Obey. They can bring this, get back to base, get healthy, and get ready to pull the Fire Giant. But the only relevant respawn timer here is really no numbers, because Cherryo has that ultimate as soon as he spawns. He's going to be able to rejoin this team fight. So it seems like a 5-on-3 FG pool. It's really going to turn into a 5-on-4.
Dardez can't find the roots, so CaptainTwig won't be as damaged here. Fire Giant already started by Ataraxia. PrettyPriMe looking for the Raijin, and again, zoning by way of damage. Fire Giant half HP already.
Twig looking for some extra poke damage, and there
25.
comes Cherryo's ult, but look at where he is.
10.
He's actually hidden there a little bit. FG does go down for Obey, but they're going in for the fight as well.
Cherryo surrounded. He's surrounded by Obey jerseys. Nobody able to help him. Elevate said goodbye and dashed under that tower. Fire Giant in tow. Obey Alliance up. A slew of gold, 14,000 to be precise. 14-3, 34 minutes in. Obey Alliance, they are up on top significantly.
Looking to close it out and punch their ticket to the semifinals tomorrow, and Obey looks very prepared for what Elevate was ready to bring to them in this quarterfinal matchup, and I'm not surprised. I mean, they prepare very well, they always do, and especially after how much trouble Elevate gave them at Super Regionals, you knew Obey was really going to dedicate themselves to figuring out a way to beat what Elevate likes to do.
Right side Phoenix push, and that's going to be a ton of damage on Ataraxia. No number's going to continue looking for the stun. Love the target swap as well. And Jermain punishes PrettyPriMe.
That's going to stop the push from Obey for sure. Both Ataraxia and PrettyPriMe backed up, but the tank's still willing to stick around. Now they decide to back up, but Twig might be in some trouble. Still has purification beads until he has to use them.
He gets taunted into a bunch of damage, and I think that right there, beautiful defensive stop coming out from Elevate, but I think they pushed a little bit too far forward. Obey Alliance looking for the counter initiation. Xaliea taunted under the Phoenix as well, so he'll take a shot, but the rest of the team looking for the comeback.
Ataraxia's triple life steal helps out. Huge knockup coming out of Xaliea. Big damage from Prime, and he's going to find Cherryo. No numbers is next. Twig gets that one.
And that's again. Xaliea, the facilitator, making it happen. Obey Alliance, they are just channeled through this guy right now. I mean, PrettyPriMe and Xaliea, it's the same thing, two different gods, same situation. Xaliea goes, hey Prime, what you doing? Are you hungry? Word, I'ma serve you. Last time it was by way of the flip, this time it's by way of the knockup. Xaliea feeds Prime, and everybody eating, looking for the win.
Ataraxia still healthy underneath this Phoenix. PrettyPriMe about half HP, but he dodges out that Nox ultimate. Mid-Phoenix falls, and Elevate still only with 3 members. Cherryo has ultimate for when he respawns, but Obey can easily go through this jungle, take out Red, take out the tier 2, take out this Gold Fury. Everyone's basically full build already. Only EmilZy and PrettyPriMe are waiting on their last items. That means Obey is going to be able to back up, upgrade all their relics, get some power potions, and get ready to get to the semifinals.
I mean, this is a removal of a comeback mechanic. This is not pushing Obey any further ahead. This is ensuring that Elevate will have that much harder of a time to actually come back in this one. And wow, they're going to have the hardest of battles if they do wind up coming back into it. Because Obey Alliance, I mean, this is, Ryan, I think this is the best I've seen Obey Alliance play. I don't want to say all year, but
since spring. Spring was when they were dominant.
Yeah.
They were dominant at the spring finals LAN, and you're definitely right. They could be playing better than that, but that's the last time I remember them looking this good. They just came in with a game plan, and Obey, when they're playing at their best, always seem to be so, it just ends up being very clean. Not a lot of, you know, stragglers, a mistimed back, a missed ability, even things, small things like that just don't seem to happen to this team whenever they're on point. Cherryo's ultimate forced out from his split push. The big thing for me here in this matchup was that No Numbers got off to a 2-0 start on a Warrior that could have gotten pressure and ends up going 0-4 after that.
Yeah.
And that's tough. And again, not all on him. A lot of it is Obey's strategy and the way they play, the way that most teams play. So I suppose I should say the other way around. A lot of it is the way that Elevate plays, and that they don't prioritize getting fire elementals. They don't prioritize securing both of their own buffs. They're willing to let Cherryo miss out on speed or miss out on blue XP in order to do other things around the map. But that really does hurt No Numbers, and the lead that was given to Xaliea by the way that CaptainTwig and the rest of Obey played the map ended up being much more impactful than the 2-0 start that No Numbers had.
I think the conversation here, Ryan, is that we have two teams that, as strong as they are still growing. And I think Elevate, as they continue on to move into Season 5, I think we're going to see Elevate pay more attention to those smaller things that you just mentioned. With Obey Alliance, I think this is very scary. Because for me last year, and all the times that we've seen Obey be very successful, it's been CaptainTwig feeding PrettyPriMe. In fact, every single time I can remember that Obey are in an elimination game, CaptainTwig goes to the Fafnir that can very literally feed the mid lane, put the god right in the crop. Well, here it is. Sorry for that. Here it is. Xaliea, now he can feed. Now you have 2 players that are able to feed that mid lane. That's incredible.
It really is. And look, variety was the big star for Obey last year as well, but that was a lot of, like you said, it was CaptainTwig feeding one of those 2. It really was a variety feeding PrettyPriMe or vice versa. Now it's Prime and Xaliea. Either of them can take the mantle, and Ataraxia can do it at any given time as well. This is a team that has a lot of win conditions. I don't think they had a lot of win conditions. They had 2. It was Prime and it was Variety last year. but they didn't really work towards each other, if that makes sense. This time, I really do think it could be Obey. You know, Xaliea has a great early game, hand it off to Prime, vice versa, however you want to make it. Ataraxia gets off to a great lead and carries it all by himself. Even Twig can have those games. You can't forget that he's that potential player. And oh, by the way, EmilZy's the best support on the planet, and we haven't even mentioned him as a win condition yet.
And I mean, see, that's the thing is that when everything goes according to plan, none of this matters. But Xaliea, yeah, sure, he's the feeder. He's going to be the guy. And then, well, he doesn't have a great game. Sweet, CaptainTwig can do it too. And that's what's really scary for me about Obey.
EmilZy gonna jump in underneath that Phoenix, gets rooted underneath there by Dardez, but he's taking absolutely no damage. DeathPanter is, though, big bounce from PrettyPrime's Raijin, forces Elevate back, and Obey get that left side Phoenix.
Look at the mid one too, just respawn. Right side likely to go down just as simply. Elevate needs to defend under the Titan, which is perhaps the scariest thing to do because Obey Alliance with the characters they have, AoE damage. I mean, this is Elevate on their last legs. Right side Phoenix falls down. EmilZy pushing in. CaptainTwig controlling Cherryo. Titan under attack. Obey seeping into the base.
Nice ult there. Ataraxia forced to use the Aegis. Jermain putting in the snipes. He's going to be able to airstrike away. Titan still very healthy. Twig up and down with that Lord of the Afterlife. All of Elevate still holding for the moment.
Here it is. Titan stopped as far as damage is concerned. Damage and defense by Elevate relatively strong. Cherryo does a good job taking damage, coming in and out, in and out. CaptainTwig by himself, but everybody needs to look at the right-hand side of the map because Ataraxia is taking care of business. Cherryo back to base.
Ataraxia full health, that triple lifesteal. Jermain gets stunned out, and immediately Obey looking towards the Titan, bringing it down to 75%, down to half.
But the damage is low. DeathPanter takes that one. PrettyPriMe able to answer back. Still, Titan barely alive. 700. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see Obey tomorrow night.
A great performance by Obey Alliance. Elevate came in with high hopes. They played the game totally different than everybody else, but Obey just came prepared. Elevate stuck with what got them here. You have to respect that, but at some point you have to expect that they're gonna have a new wrinkle for you, and for me, Tom, I just don't think they had one.
Rough stuff for Elevate. Not able to make it after a fantastic, in my opinion, year. A lot of stuff and a lot of things to really hang your hat on. Obey Alliance, fantastic 2-0 performance. We'll break it down with Kelly in the desk.
Thank you so much, Tom. I mean, that just looked like such a dominating performance from Obey Alliance. What really happened there, because it looked pretty even, and Aurora, you kept saying during game one that Elevate could have won that game.
Yeah, they could have came back at any moment, but they ended up not coming back. Obey took that game, and then Obey came in firing this game. They really got off to a good early start, and then they just ran with the game.
There's two primary things I saw that game. It was one, Xaliea having great engages with the Chulainn, and number two, PrettyPriMe getting the drum. He was just banging so hard over there that Elevate couldn't really hang on.
Yeah, going back to your point on Xaliea, Xaliea had a phenomenal series. He had some really good games. The first game is Sobek. His Lurking in the Waters were insane, and then as Chulainn, he was playing extremely well, sitting up Prime for the entire game.
You guys were, I'm sorry, you guys were saying that the Xaliea was the weak link for this team, or that's what everyone was saying. Yeah. Obviously, that is not the case anymore.
That's what the outside was saying. A lot of the pro players said that that's their weakness. They can just take advantage of Xalea's small god pool or take advantage of that lane, and they'll have like a big mismatch there. But Xalea's really showing up to this tournament, and we got to give him a lot of credit for that.
The only reason it even looks like that, honestly, is because Obey has shifted so many different solo laners this past year alone, with Variety leaving in the beginning of the year, Maniac leaving towards the middle. They have so much synergy with their 4-man roster that as long as they get a solid player that does their job in the solo lane, they're going to thrive every single time. The Chulainn lights out, blinked so many times, caught even Amaterasu in the dash during that 32.5-minute mark, which won them that one team fight.
Man, I mean, you banned Discordia, but then you give Raijin over to PrettyPriMe.
Yeah, it's rough.
The picks and bans, you know what? Let's actually find out from the man himself. We have PrettyPriMe on the floor right now with Gabriella for an interview.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the stage here with Obey Alliance. We have the PrettyPriMe. So, going into this, a lot of high expectations for yourself, facing off against opponents that you know fairly well. What were you thinking?
After Super Regionals, I was actually kind of scared to go into Elevate again to see if they had figured out something new. But I feel like it went pretty well, and it didn't. There was more of the same than before, so I feel like we kind of figured it out at Super Regionals, and it didn't adapt really.
So you think the fact that they brought out the Triple Guardian that you're kind of aware of, and then just the Nox support, that having that intel from beforehand ended up being a benefit here?
Yeah, I think that helped us up a lot, and we also knew that we would probably face them a really long time before we went here, so we had a lot of time to prep for specifically facing Elevate.
And game number 1, rocking that Discordia. A lot of people have been trying to make it work, and you actually had it come together. So what were your thoughts going in with that selection?
I just think she's really good and solid overall. Like later on in the game, you'll basically murder the squishes in the back if you just touch them, which is pretty nice. And it's just a little bit of a rough start. I think that's why people don't play her, because she's really bad in the start, and that gets a lot of priority these days.
One last question. After having gotten second multiple times here at HRX, I know you're gunning for the win. Yeah. Any secrets? Anything you want to tell the crowd?
Nah, I would like to thank the crowd for all the support and all the sharing. Good sharing.
Well, thank you so much, PrettyPriMe. That's going to do it for the games we have here with Smite today. Desk, take it away.
Preparation is so important in these, and that's what PrettyPriMe was saying, is that they knew what to expect coming into this, and they weren't worried about it.
Especially considering how difficult Elevate put up a fight in Super Regionals. They definitely seem like they did their homework in this set.
Yeah, Hazer did a ton of homework. All the players on Obey as well did a ton of homework, and they came together and they played a really strong series against Elevate.
That was our last match for the day, but let's take a quick reminder of what we got to see today and which teams were going home. Today, the first game that we saw was Team Rival versus Nocturnes Gaming. Of course, Rival, the #1 seed out of EU, sending them home. Luminosity Gaming versus Energy Esports, the reigning world championships, defeated Luminosity Gaming, going up against Team Rival tomorrow. And then in the lower bracket, we saw E United defeat out Black Dragons. And then, of course, in the last match we just saw, Obey Alliance took out Elevate.
My favorite game today was definitely game 2 of Nocturne versus Rival. Nocturne almost upset Rival. Would have been insane if it happened, but unfortunately it didn't. But we got to see a really good performance out of Nocturne in that second game.
As far as gameplay goes, I gotta agree, but when it comes to picks and bans, I gotta give it to Black Dragons with the Anubis.
That's true, yeah, they definitely got the crowd all riled up there. And then E United on the flip side though, picking the second Doge, the Fenrir, was just amazing.
And this all leads into tomorrow, which we have the schedule up for you in just a moment, everyone, what we're going to be looking at. It's going to be an intense day. Of course, the show open at 9 a.m. with the pre-game show where we're going to review and talk about what's going to be going on at 9:15. At 9:30, the World Championships is going to be started for the semifinals. And then we have the grand finals for the console World Championships for Smite, which will be Astral Authority versus Myth Gaming.
It's going to be a very epic battle on the console scene. Astral Authority looked lights out yesterday, and Myth Gaming surprising us all.
It's a crazy story. They're the two opposites, right? Astral Authority dominated the console scene, and they were the ones that expected to win. Myth Gaming wasn't even supposed to be here, technically.
No.
Some other team had to beat some other team for them to get here.
Kaz definitely threw them a bone, honestly. It was an epic 50-minute game. Kuzumbo on Mr. Turtle. Myth is thanking him so much right now.
But yesterday, they definitely proved that they deserved to beat here.
Oh, absolutely. Against Strictly Business, Myth did a fantastic job.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us here at HRX 2018, powered by INAP, and we will see you all tomorrow starting at 9 a.m. See you then.
Yeah.